In 1993, I was 22 years old, living in my truck, and my sister had joined the military, so I got the idea that that would be a good idea for me too. The next day, I walked into a joint recruiting station, and I did not know the difference between the Navy or the Army. And luckily, a guy named Gunny snatched me up and asked me if I wanted free dental and 3 meals a day. 2 weeks later, I was in Paris Island, where I did my very first pull-up, and I ran for the first time in my life on purpose. I'd been living on the streets. I was desperate for discipline. I was older than my peers, so military life came easy for me. And I'm still on active duty. I'm a Chief Officer 5. I got 27 years of service, currently stationed here in Southern California. I've been surrounded by some of the finest leaders. Throughout my career, I've learned from the best. I've been around the world and truly blessed. My mother and my father were my heroes. They were social, fun, intelligent, and they drank. I was awkward and frightened. I was insecure. I found myself in trouble a lot as a kid, and I remember feeling like a constant disappointment to them. I was 12 years old, hanging out with some kids on the block, and we decided to steal some booze from our parents and have a sleepover and get drunk. And I loved every second of it. I was funny and tall and confident, and the ease and comfort that came with that first drink, that's a feeling that I never forgot, and I would chase for the next 13 years. I was a habitual blackout drinker. I never knew when to stop. It became a problem for me right from the start. That mental obsession overpowered me, and it always won out. At some point, I crossed that line alcoholics flirt with, right? I no longer cared what was right or wrong. I became convinced that I was doomed. A couple of arrests, running away from home, dropping out of school at the age of 16. The only thing that mattered to me was finding that next drink, just quelling that obsession. I was willing to do whatever it took. I tried everything that's mentioned in chapter 3, right? I stopped drinking dark liquor and beer. I no longer hung out at that bar or with that guy. I traveled across America in a Winnebago with a bunch of hippies, desperately trying to get in tune with the earth, thinking that would be the cure. It got so bad for me that my last ditch effort to try to control my drinking was to join the Marine Corps. You know, those 3 months in Paris Island, I was sober, obviously, and then off to the races again. And I picked up exactly where I left off. I didn't draw a sober breath for those first 2 years, but I was successful. My parents set the example. They were type A functioning alcoholics. They always instilled in me the importance of hard work and being accountable. For some reason, I excelled while I was on duty. I never missed a beat. I've been counseled numerous times by my NCOs, but drinking never affected my performance. I was meritoriously promoted up through the ranks, and I didn't draw a sober breath during that time. And I tried to control and enjoy my drinking, but I don't think I've ever tried to get sober. That was never a notion in my brain to stop drinking for good and for all. Controlling it and enjoying it was something I was never able to do, but something I attempted. I never experienced any kind of backlash. I was such a bad drunk that my leadership encouraged, whatever you're doing, John, to stay sober, just keep on doing it. I never experienced any kind of backlash or separatism or any kind of stigma because of trying to get sober. I was home in New York on St. Paddy's Day on leave, March 17th, 1995. And the combination of me being home and St. Patrick's Day was a big deal. So a few of my friends and I went into the city to celebrate. And my MO has always been to overshoot that mark and to black out. And that day was no different, except my next memory was coming to in the airport terminal at LAX 4 days later. My sister was stationed in California at the time, and she was there to pick me up with her boyfriend. So apparently my father had poured me into the plane on the East Coast so I could return to my unit, and she notified my sister that I was inbound. During the drive from LAX to Camp Pendleton, my sister's boyfriend started telling me about how he used to drink and his inability to control it and how he was allergic to alcohol. And I remember him saying that he wasn't like other people, that he was unable to drink like a normal guy. And it almost ruined his life until he found help in AA. And when he dropped me off, he made sure that I had his phone number, and he told me that if I wanted help to give him a call. The very next day, after work, I went to Tijuana because it sounded like a great idea. I blacked out and I was drug across the border by a few strangers that I had been partying with. When I came to, these strangers looked at me and they told me that I was an alcoholic, and if I didn't get help, I was going to die alone. And something clicked. I was broken in every aspect of the word. I called for help. I was 12-step by that Marine. He took me to my very first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, March 24th, 1995, and I've been sober ever since. I think the biggest challenge for me was deployments. It was being away from my home group and the fellowship and my family and the people that I felt comfortable with. Being overseas, right? Those three legacies of AA, recovery, unity, and service. It's hard to find that when you're all alone on the other side of the world. It continues to be difficult to reach out in new places to find that fellowship and unity. It's even more difficult when there's no AA that even exists. I spent 6 months in southern Afghanistan in the fight, and I wound up going to one meeting that just happened to be on a FOB, on a forward operating base that was being run by somebody. It was just per chance. It was just a God shot. Those issues and conflicts, being away from the people of AA is always a challenge in sobriety. And overcoming that is simple. I mean, it's not easy, but it's simple. I've been deployed 11 times. 3 trips to Iraq, 3 trips to Afghanistan. I've been a member of the Loners Internationalist meeting. I've attended AA meetings at every port in the world. The one thing that my sponsor and my fellowship reminds me is that faith without works is dead. I must have some type of faith. It's contingent upon the growth of my spiritual program, right? So when I wake up in the morning and I don't have the fellowship, well, I still need to connect with my higher power. I still need to grow that, right? So the issues and conflicts of being sober while deployed is different than, being an active alcoholic in the armed services, some of those conflicts and challenges. I think the resources today for substance abuse rehab on bases are amazing. There are tons of opportunities to reach out for help if you need it. Without a doubt, I think, especially today, if you go to your leadership expressing that you've got a problem and you're willing to fix yourself, they will bend over backwards to help you. The meetings on base or the chaplains, the mental health professionals, there are a lot of people out there that are aware of Alcoholics Anonymous. I think that finding a relationship with a higher power helped my career, right? The result of that has been sobriety. So yeah, absolutely. If I never got sober, I would surely be dead. And being alive has definitely been a good career move. I think on page 52, it talks about the bedevilments and the definition of my life when I attempt to manage it. When I'm not connected, I have trouble with personal relations, can't control my emotions, I'm depressed, I'm miserable, I'm useless. Being part of the military, being part of a team, if I could take those principles and those things that I've learned, have integrity, be courageous, and have honor and selflessness, and be compassionate, the exact opposite of the way that I think as an alcoholic, that I can be successful. What Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me, I can absolutely apply those to my career and to the Marines and sailors. It doesn't matter if I'm a private or a Chief Officer 5. I've got the opportunity to do that on a daily basis, dealing with non-alcoholics. I hope one day to understand why things happen the way they do, but I don't question God's handiwork. The path that got me right here, right now, is crooked and it's paved with poor decisions and bad intentions, but no, I have no regrets. What I've been taught and what I've been able to use those experiences to learn from, and more importantly, to help other people.